All right, here we go. Welcome everybody to another CNC Q A Podcast. We are at let's see, episode 29 looks like. So, welcome everybody. Got a couple of the usual suspects and another guy y'all might know. Let me see if I can get the crew in here. There we go.
There we
Got
are.
Ryan is with us.
As
You know,
always.
Mr. Paul is hanging in there with us and joining us tonight.
Yep.
Bob, the old retired guy from
Yeah,
CNC. So, how you doing, Bob?
I am doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the panel tonight. Uh, let's see. Before we get started, um, I don't have really a whole lot of important stuff to talk about, but here lately we've been talking about this old Sidewinder here behind me and stuff, and I'm running it with a little touchscreen monitor, but I'm still using good old Mach 3. And, Mach 3 has been around what seems like forever now. And I was thinking the other day, I'm like, gosh, Dave, maybe you should get out more and try something else. But I've always liked Mach 3, one, because I already own it. I think it was like $150 way back when I bought it. But and it still works. It just flat works. So that's why I keep using it. But that kind of got me to thinking that I'm wondering if I'm the only dinosaur out here that's still running Mach 3. So I put polls in a couple of the Facebook groups, and I thought it would be fun to, if I can get it up here. Where did I? Oh, there it is. Now let's take a look. Let me share my screen.
There we go. There we go.
There we go. So this is the Gatton CNC Facebook group, and I listed several choices just to see what's out there. And then I told people, if you're using something that I don't have on the list, just to add it. So, and here you can see Mach 3 is kicking in at 63%. Looks like it got 36 votes in that Facebook group. So, in fact, I'm going to jot some of these down. Mach 4 was kind of a surprise. I thought there would be more Mach 4 users, but there's only one vote on that one. So Linux came in at about 13%, had eight people using that.
I used that for a while.
Yeah, well, a lot of people like that because the price is right on that one.
Yeah, you can put it on a Raspberry Pi now, even so.
Yeah. And Gerbil, and I just kind of generalized Gerbil. I didn't break it down into which G-Sender type program, G-code sender program they're using or whatever, but we had 4 votes on that one. And then on the Centroid Acorn, which I really don't know a whole lot about. I've watched a few videos.
It's a nice setup.
Or as I like to call it, research. When you say you've done some research, that sounds a whole lot better than saying I spent 4 hours today watching YouTube videos. So we had 1 vote for the Centroid Acorn, and then the Masso controller. We only had 1 in the Gatton CNC group. Picked that one. And I can't believe I forgot to add this one to the list, but somebody added UC CNC. I've actually used that a little bit.
Yeah.
We had 3 votes on that one. Then we had somebody add ECNC.
Yeah, but that's Gerbil.
Oh, is that a Gerbil one?
Yeah,
Okay,
so it's
well,
the Venables one.
okay, so that's 1 vote. I'll just add 1 vote to the Gerbil one then. Yeah.
The Inventables one is
Also gerbil. Yep.
Gerbil as well.
Okay, so Al here is saying Inventables easel. So we'll throw him up into the Gerbil pile too. So now that gives them a total of 6. And then this Rich Auto A11, it got 1 vote here, and I don't really know anything about that. So I don't really know what kind it is, but we'll throw a vote down there for that one. And then while I'm at it, let me come over here and go to the Garage Works because I put the same poll in that one. So now you can see we've got 76% used Mach 3. So it got 10 more votes. And I don't know whether any of these are duplicates or not, but we'll act like they're not. Mach 4, 7%, which ended up being just 1 vote. And again, that's kind of surprising to me. Linux CNC, 15%. Ended up being 2 votes there. And let's see, Gerbil is.
Wow,
How did that get to be 1% and 0 votes?
Yeah, it's probably a minimum of
That's
1%.
some of that
It's
Facebook.
a fixed.
That's
It's
some
a
of that
fixed
Facebook-
election.
Yeah, that's some of that Facebook math right there. Same thing with this Centroid Acorn. I bet it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have any either. I guess they
I
just.
wonder.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I wonder if the Mach 4 is not as popular because you actually have to pay for it, because Mach 3 has a lot of bootleg copies out there.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
I have a theory too.
Okay,
What's your
so
theory?
My theory is that on Dave's builds that was what he was always suggesting to use was Mach 3. So that's just what everybody that built his machines defaulted to.
well, we should note that I'm doing these polls. Let me go ahead and we'll get this out of here. It should be noted that I only did these polls in both the groups that are my groups,
Yeah.
Gatton CNC and GarageWorks CNC. Now, I'm sure if I would have stuck one into the Onefinity CNC
Oh, well,
Facebook group,
The
it
map-
would have
the map-
been
That's all Gerbil.
overwhelmingly Masso and open builds, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think Mach 3 has been popular for probably about as long as you've been in CNCs, though. So, I mean, it's been around the longest, right?
yeah. In fact, I remember when I first started looking into CNC, there was a Mach 2.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, if you look at some of the post processors in Vectric, they'll still say Mach 2/3 arc inches or something like that. That'll be the post processor.
I noticed you didn't have turbo CNC up there. That was like the first one with DOS.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
You remember that?
Well, apparently, nobody in those 2 groups was using it. But anyway, I think Ryan probably hit the nail on the head because, you know, back in my heyday when I was doing the Gatton CNC kits and the GarageWorks CNC kits and all that, you know, people, they could choose whatever they wanted, but if they weren't, you know, experienced and were brand new at this, they knew that if they went with Mach 3, they could always get the settings.
Can you buy Mach 3 anymore, or do you have to buy Mach 4?
No, you can still get Mach 3. It's
It's just not supported anymore.
$175.
Okay.
But yeah, you can still get it. And Mach 4 for the hobby, you know, they've got it broken up where they didn't do that with Mach 3. with Mach 4, it's $200 for the hobby version. And then when you get all the bells and whistles, it's way on up there, I think. I think it's over $1,000 or something like that.
Cool.
But anyway, so needless to say, I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that Mach 3 was that popular, because I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not an old dinosaur. I'm just one of the dinosaurs.
There you go.
So, because I like to use it. But I have, like I said, I have tried other stuff. Of course, I've run other machines that are Gerbil based. So I've used, I've used, what was it? Bob Sender, I think is what
Basics.
you have.
Yeah, it's durable. Yeah.
I've used that. I've used Universal G Code Sender. My favorite one was probably the one by CNC Labs, which make the long mill and the alt mill G Sender.
Right. G-Sender,
That
yeah.
was my favorite as far as G Code Sender stuff was.
Yeah, for a hobbyist, the gerbil firmware was great, but for somebody that wanted to do macros or subroutines, the Mach 3 or the Linux CNC has so much more functionality than gerbil could handle on that little microcontroller. So the
Yeah.
guys that are doing the gerbil HAL, I think, is that how you say it now?
Yeah.
But they're trying to put it on the ESP32. They're trying to make the gerbil firmware, take it from there and give it all of those features that the Mach has and the Linux CNC. But I'm with the rest of the guys. I mean, if you're going to do that, buy Mach 3.
Yeah, and be done with it.
Yeah.
It's proven. It's got all the bugs out. I mean,
well, that's always something that's always kind of I don't know, made me chuckle a little, I guess, because people would always say, Dave, what, because with my Avid, when I had it, they, of course, when I was adding up the options, because I went full bore on all the plug and play stuff and all that. And then they go, oh, well, you want Mach 4 too. And I go, no, I don't want Mach 4. And they couldn't believe that I didn't want Mach 4. And I said, no, I've already been running Mach 3. And I said, I'm sure it'll do everything I need it to do with Mach 3. And, like I said, I bought it way long ago. It was $150. It's $175 now. And the Mach 4 they was trying to sell me was $200. I'm like, no, I've got enough added on options here. I don't need that.
Yeah.
So I ran it all that time with Mach 3 and it worked fine. But the thing, like I said, the thing that always got me is when people would say, man, why are you still running that old Mach 3? Why don't you get this? And you shouldn't run Mach 3 because they don't support it anymore, or they're not developing it anymore and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, they don't need to. It's pretty much perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
It's been around so long. All the bugs are out of it.
So I got a question. So do you still run a parallel port, or do you buy something in between the two?
Well, the one I'm running back here right now, it has a USB card in it. It's a controller by G3 CNC. Back when Stacy was selling those. But whenever I do, in fact, I can show you right here. Let's see if I can do this. Do camera 2 over here. Oh, I may not have it where Bob could, but you can see the UC100 controller, motion controller up there on top. And this is just my messy demo board from past shows. It's just kind of a good way to show folks how, and there's a lot of things on this board that aren't even wired up. There's some things, but yeah. Now I do have something. I guess we can probably call this an antique.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get it out of here. Yeah, this would probably be considered an antique,
Oh my!
and
Oh yeah, buddy. Xylotech
can't
boxes.
believe this thing. I can't believe this thing was still running, but this was what Melinda was using to run her Sidewinder. Of course, back in the day when I sold these machines, I would order these, and that was what I sold along with them. Was these old simple. And I've even noticed as I had this out here a while ago, some of these are getting pretty brown or they're starting to overheat stuff. These plugs were notorious for burning out and not lasting. But yeah, she's had that thing for, I don't even know, probably close to 15 years. And
Wow.
that thing was still working when she shut it off. But yeah, that's one for the museum right there. But anyway, is anybody that's out there in the chat, or anybody surprised at the results from the polls, or is that about what everybody expected?
No, but Earl Walker said he still has his Xylotech.
Okay, it's still going. Well, if as long as you're not, you blow them out once in a while and stuff, they'll last. But there's been a lot of them. I know Drew Oxford, I think it was just last summer, he called me in a panic. He was in the middle of a job, and he was using one with his Garage Works, and it finally quit on him. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, I haven't even plugged that one in to make sure it works. She said it was working when she unplugged everything and moved it out of the way.
Sweet.
But that's probably the only one. I might have one other one out in the shop because I've still got 2 or 3 of them around, but I don't know if all of them work or not. But pretty much now when I build one, I use a UC 100 with a breakout board like you saw there on the demo board. Which, speaking of the demo board, I've talked about in the past how try to do some of it live here on this show. Is I was going to take all this stuff off of my demo board and use my laser to cut some kind of a box, and that's what I eventually want to use with this thing. But
I should send you my prototypes.
here lately, I have been taking stuff from the garage and moving it around to the shop to get it out of my way in here. And then I've also, as I've found things, how sometimes you find things, I go, I need to bring that around here. So I found some stuff. Let me show you what I found. I got 2 boxes right here. And most of this stuff I forgot I had. But in this box, I've got 2 of these, and you can pretty much tell from the size of the box what these are. But these are the exact same power supplies. These are, I should put my glasses on. These are 0 to 60 volt DC power supplies.
How many amps you got?
These are just like the one I have on the demo board, and it's got this little, I don't know what that is, LEDs or something, that when you turn this knob right here, you can adjust the volts and it'll show up right there what your voltage is.
Huh.
Which I thought was pretty cool. So I like that one so well. I guess I bought all this stuff in anticipating another build of some kind. But
so Dave, what was the current rating on that? 0 to 60 volts. What was the current?
8 amp.
8 amps. Okay.
Yeah. So I got 2 of those. I've got,
Welcome to Dave's garage sale.
I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
Oh, nothing.
This is a 12 volt 5 amp little power supply.
Got to have one of those. Yeah.
So those are handy to have. Like I said, apparently I bought all this stuff thinking I was going to do some kind of a build. And I guess I forgot about it because I think I bought this in late 2020. And then, of course, I had my heart attack in the spring of 21. So I was a little foggy there for a while. So I guess I've forgotten all this. But here's a little cute 5 volt 5 amp power supply. I'm not real crazy about this one though, because it doesn't have any kind of little cover. The other ones had those little plastic covers that flip down. This one does not have one, so it'd be easy to get your little tickle with a screwdriver.
Sounds like you need to build one more CNC.
And of course, anybody that knows me knows I love
think
to.
you ignored you.
I love to do.
We did.
I love to use these little junction boxes or terminal blocks, I guess they're called. But these are 6 base. You can see I got a whole pack of them here, and this is just the 6 wire ones. I've got some that are 12, and
I got a pack of those too.
and then I found these. These are some couplers that.
Okay, now you said the wrong thing.
Oh.
So I have just got all kinds of stuff in here, and then I'm like that.
This one, yeah, couplers.
Yeah, well, I'm just showing what I found in this box. I'm not counting what I've got over here in my storage rack. But then, like I said, the plan was to originally take the stuff off that demo board and put it into a controller and then use it here. But then I found this box. Let's see. Oh, I got to grab one that's open. I got 4 of these, so you can probably guess what these are.
Oh yeah, drivers.
These are the DM542Ts.
Baby, yeah.
Brand spanking new in the box, and that's what's on the demo board. So I'm thinking now that I've got all this stuff. There's really no need for me to tear apart the demo board. I guess I'll leave it around for a while. And
I think I remember what you were going to do. I think because you had gotten the Raspberry Pi at that point too. I think you were going to build a Raspberry Pi controller.
Maybe that was it. I know I got rid of the Raspberry Pi though. I think.
Nope, I have it now.
Well, I sent it to somebody else, and then I think they sent it to you. So,
Yeah.
But let me show you what else I've got that I never did do anything with.
Yeah,
I think
thanks,
you're
John.
right, John. I think that's the thing to do.
All right, so this is another stepper online box, and you can tell it's a little bigger than the other ones. Let me just hold it up like this. This is a DM860i.
Ooh, baby. Big stepper motor.
And these, I've got 4 of these. And then I have 4 of these.
Oh, the
Yeah.
32. Yeah. Oh man, I'm trying to remember what you were going to do with those. I don't remember.
Well, I do remember what I had originally thought about with these. I was actually going to
Put them on a 3018.
I was actually going to put them on my Gatton CNC and sell the upgrade plates to where you
Yeah.
could take the NEMA 23 off and screw on it, and all of it would use existing holes and all that. And then if you wanted to really beef up your machine, you could run a NEMA 34 Gatton. So there might
So
be a NEMA 34 Gatton out there somewhere, but I don't know of one.
what kind of torque do those hold? Those stepper motors you got?
Um,
Got a listing on it anywhere? Some of the
well, let's
ratings?
see. It might have a.
How many amps they pulling? 6 or 7 or 4 or 5?
Let's see. Let's
Probably
see.
enough to make the lights go dim.
It's 6 amp,
Yeah.
4.8 Newton meter.
4.8 Newton meters. I have to take that to my old switcher there.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know. It's like I told Melinda when I went over there to get that other sidewinder that she just wanted me to get it out of her way. I said, I need another CNC machine like I need a hole in the head. But, yeah, I've got, oh, you know what? I take that back. I thought I had 4 of those big old drivers. I've got 3 of them. I think what I was going to do is put the 34s, 2 on the Y and 1 on the X, and just leave the 23 on the Z.
Yeah, Z's pretty easy.
I think that was my plan because that must be why I've only got. And I've got another one over here. Oh yeah, here's some of it. Here's a 4th one.
Jeez.
And it is really big. Let's see what it says. Yeah, it's 6 amp,
You
12
could build
Newton,
a tower crane with those.
Yeah.
12 Newton meters on this one.
Okay, wow. All right.
And then here are some of the plates. If you look, you can see that these 4 inside holes would mount, and it's recessed there. So you could mount this on the side of your machine after you take the NEMA 23 off, and then it would go on there like that. And you could put some big old hosses on there if you wanted. But I never did. Like I said, I think all this was right near the end of 2020, and of course, the spring of 21 kind of
Went sideways.
changed a lot of things. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to mess with. In fact, if you look at that, if I add this, if you look, you can see the stepper motors down below that I have mounted through the back.
Wow, yeah. Yeah.
So the demo board would show how to get everything running. I've used that to show people how to troubleshoot when you got a loose wire, the symptoms and stuff like that. And but I don't think I'm even going to use these stepper motors because out in my shop, every time I pull a drawer open, I find stepper motors. So, in fact, I could probably pull a drawer out of this thing right here. I know there's one in here somewhere because I've seen it all the time. But But anyhow, I've got that, and then I've got. Let me pull this plug off here. And I keep forgetting I have this thing. I'd like to play around with it a little bit more too. But this is a Masso controller. But if you look close, it's not the G3. It's not the new. This was old.
That's when they first came out.
It's a second generation.
Oh.
But I know way back in the day, about 8 years ago, and I think if it was so long ago that I was doing these live streams using old Google Hangout. That's how long ago it was. But I had Jatinder Rule, I think is his name. I never could say his name right, but he was the young gentleman behind the Masso in Australia.
Yeah.
And I had him on the show. In fact, I had him on the show a couple of times. And he did a giveaway. He allowed me to do a giveaway for somebody to win one of these. And so we did the giveaway. Like I said, this is roughly 8 years ago, almost 9 probably. But anyway, after we did the giveaway, he sent me one of these too. So, and you can see this wire I've got hooked up. This is, this thing takes a 12-volt power supply. So this is an old, you know me, I don't throw nothing away. I find these old power supplies and I just throw them in a drawer. When I need one, I go looking, and, this one says it's 12 volts, and let's see what it says. Yeah, output
Now,
12 volts.
Do those
1.5.
Massos take a closed? Do those Massos take a closed loop stepper motor like the new ones do?
Well, I don't know. I guess you could use them with this, but I don't know if they were running closed loop back then or not. But I have had this one hooked up. Now I'm trying to think. I don't know if I ever made any videos on it or not, but I have tested this thing with one of the old Garage Works CNCs. Man, I scraped myself on something. Now I'm gonna bleed like a stuck hog because of the blood thinners and stuff I'm on. Let me find a good clean dirty rag so I can wipe my DNA off of here.
There you go.
So I don't want to take the conversation too far out of context, but you were saying stepper motors with encoders or closed loop. What is the advantage of that instead of using a servo motor? Because you still
from what I understand, and I don't know that much about them, is that it doesn't drop steps at all. Is that kind of what you think, Dave? Or
well, the closed loop means it has like an encoder on it, so it gives feedback to Mach 3, but it can still lose steps. But what happens is if it does, it stops. It doesn't keep going like a stepper motor.
Yeah, but a stepper motor is inherently it loses torque the faster it goes, right?
Right.
But a servo motor can actually maintain those torques at higher speed. So to me, if you're going to do closed loop, I thought maybe he knew because he was saying that or Paul did, because it's like, why would you use a stepper motor, which is really great for stepping, an open loop system, but when you go to closed loop, why would you not just use a servo motor? Because they're the same price, and they basically can run high RPMs and not lose it. And they do the same thing. If they lose it too far, they get too much error, then they just, send an error message back to the system and lock you out.
Yeah.
Really, about the only thing I really knew about the closed loop was I've got a Onefinity, and they gave me a price on upgrading to a Masso controller. But if I did that, which I didn't do it, but if I did that, then the package included closed loop stepper motors instead of
Okay.
the regular ones that come on it.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I was curious, is if the older ones required that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Well,
hoping I had an
I don't think
expert that would
any
tell
of
me the
them.
difference.
I don't think any of them require closed loop. I
Right.
just think they'll work with any of those.
Oh,
But
okay.
I did I did get this one. Like I said, one of the things, now again, they're a lot different now because you can buy the G3 Touch, which comes with that touch screen, and it's kind of
Right.
enclosed and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things when I got this, because I didn't ask him to send me this, he just sent it to me, and I thought, well, at the time these were going for $600 or $700, so I thought, well, let me, really try to put this thing through its paces and stuff. But to me, it was very frustrating because for them 8 years ago, Masso was very early in the game, so the documentation, to put it bluntly, sucked. It was hard to find stuff. I remember emailing back and forth with Chat a lot, trying to get uh, stuff figured out. And plus, they were really developing this, so it was like every week I'd get an email from Masso saying, "Okay, here's the new update."
Firmware.
And
Yeah.
of course you got to do it with the thumb drive here. So it's got a thumb drive. Again, one of the things that I always thought it was a little bit weird. I mean, I guess maybe I'm not thinking about it the right way, but the key selling point that they always used to talk about and still do is that this is an all-in-one unit. You don't need a PC with this.
Right.
Okay. Well, you don't technically, but you still need a monitor, and I'm talking about this one, or I guess any of them really. You still need a monitor. You still had to plug a keyboard in here. You load everything with a thumb drive. You could put a pendant over here, and it even has a spot. It looks like the icon looks like a game controller type thing. So to me, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, you got to put your programs in with the thumb drive, and this isn't a computer, but yeah, it may run a CNC without a computer, but you can't generate no programs if you don't
No.
you don't have VCarve or Carveco or something else on a computer. So I thought, to me, it wasn't that big a deal to say, well, this is an all-in-one thing. But I came out here and I kind of suspected it wouldn't work, but I plugged it into this monitor right here, and this thing still works. It popped right up and worked. The only problem was this one does not work with a touchscreen monitor. And if I'm going to go all out and have an all-in-one thing and have no computer, I want it to work with a touchscreen monitor too. But I did have my my little. In fact, right here where the keyboard is, I plugged in one of those little I don't know what you call them, Bluetooth things or whatever, and then I had a wireless keyboard, and it worked. And it was all it had all the same settings, just like from when I ran it years ago. But I don't know if I'm sure I don't have every last update available even for the second generation controller. So I need to get on their website and do a little nosing around and see if maybe there would be an update that I could put on this thing, bring it up to as current as I could for a second generation, and maybe it would work with a touchscreen. Although I'm not really that hopeful, but these are kind of cool. I've looked at the like I said, I've been doing a lot of research, which means sitting around watching YouTube videos. But I've watched a lot of videos about the G3 by itself where people are updating their machines and getting rid of Mach 3s. The one guy I watched, he had just bought the whole Centroid, what's
The
it called,
Acorn, yeah.
Acorn. He had bought that and built a big controller and everything, had everything. And he's really neat the way he does his wiring. He's really a neat freak when it comes to the wiring. But then he says, he barely got the thing built. And then he said he sold it because he had a Onefinity that had the Masso G3 Touch. And he liked it so well. Of course, he said he sold the Onefinity too. And he sold them, he didn't want to sell it without the Masso G3 Touch. He said that'd be kind of silly. So he sold it all, sold his other machine, along with the Centroid Acorn that he had just built up. And then he bought a big 4x8 with a vacuum table. But he said he really liked the Masso 3 Touch better than he did the Centroid. He said, I'm not knocking the Centroid, but he said between the two, because I like that one better. So it's a really nice machine. Of course, there are a few downsides to it. Number one probably is the price. It's I looked up because I thought, well, I wonder what the new G3, just that part is, and it was like $890. And then if you buy the G3 Touch, which comes with that touchscreen monitor and the little enclosure thing and all that, it's right at $500 more. So it was like $1,490, I think.
Wow.
I have experience with
$1,390.
And I think the Raspberry Pi is probably the cheapest way to go, but you can run Linux CNC, so you can kind of get all of the bells and whistles, but it's not intuitive and it's a pain to get on there. And then the Acorn, we had one in our shop, and I really liked it. You could even do ball screw mapping, so you could measure your error for the ball screw and then fix it, within, every half inch or every eighth of an inch if you wanted. Right. And then, but it had lots of bells and whistles too, but I think it was built more for the workplace than it was for the hobby. So, the jargon that it used was really more for the small shop setup, like, a mill or a lathe, than it was a hobby CNC.
Right.
But I think Masso has the hobby business due to I say hobby, but people were making money with them. But due to the Onefinity and its popularity. So
and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the new machine that PWN's coming out with, I think they're going to use that as well.
Yeah, it was in the video that they were doing.
Yeah. But it is definitely an expensive setup, though.
Yeah, it's a little. Well, and of course, they're in Australia, so it may get even more expensive.
That's true statement.
So
to upgrade my Onefinity from the Buildtronics controller to the Masso controller and change out the motors and everything was like $1,800, and I thought that's more than I would ever get out of it as far as usage. It's
yeah. Well, I guess I won't say that somebody that's a hobbyist shouldn't use closed loop steppers and a Masso. If you got the money and that's what flips your switch, go for it.
Oh yeah.
But I think for most hobbyists
I won't argue with that.
Are just trying to get into the hobby and not really selling on Etsy or craft fairs or anything. They just want to make a few things for family and friends or whatever and just have fun, which to me, that's what CNC is about. To me, is just having fun, playing around with it. It's kind of hard to justify, $1,400 or $1,500 on a controller like that.
Right. Well, but if you don't know, right? I mean, if you're not really into the microcontrollers, the gerbil stuff can be, kind of technical. However, there was one guy that was asking about Open Build's black box. I think it does a pretty good job of hiding that stuff from you. So it's a a power box that has their firmware on it, and I think that one is okay for the low end. But again, you're I don't want to say stuck with, because most hobby people don't need anything more than gerbil. It offers way more than I think most hobbyists would need.
Yeah.
But it's not the Masso controller for sure. It doesn't have the bells and whistles.
Yeah. One of the things I wasn't always crazy about though is you get somebody that's brand new, doesn't know nothing, and so they start off with some kind of a small CNC where they're running a Gerbil based thing,
Yep.
you know, universal G code sender or whatever, G sender, whatever it is. So then they get all that figured out, and maybe their hobby's starting to take off and starting to be a little business and all this. So then they think, okay, well, now I got to go get something bigger where I can start putting out some production. Well, most of those kind of machines aren't going to be Gerbil.
Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be something totally different. And I think I have not looked, because I try not to look at stuff because then I'll want one. So I haven't even gone on the Avid site. But Melinda told me, because she was wanting an Avid. She knew that mine was a good machine, and she had been on their pricing, and that's why she jumped on mine when I said I would sell mine, because it would have cost her a lot more to buy a brand new, and plus you got to put it all together and everything. But I think she told me that even Avid, she inquired about some kind of a thing, and of course they jumped right on her and tried to sell her. I think they're now using the Centroid Acorn, I believe. I don't know whether they've given up on Mach 4 or not. Like I said, I haven't gone to their website and looked, because I need to stay off of there. But I saw somebody, like I said, I do research on YouTube, and I saw somebody that was running an Avid, but it was just the small 4 foot is only 2 foot deep. And I thought, wow, I'd have room for one of them. I thought, no, Dave, you just got rid of one. Don't go up on their website. But yeah.
Well, I like the Acorn. I thought it was. I mean, it's well documented, got good tech support, and it has all of the bells and whistles. But it's not really intuitive if you don't know a lot about CNCs. So I could see a person buying that and it just being sitting around for a while because could never figure out how to use it. And I think that's where the Masto really comes in handy, right? Because it's plug and play. It's all built in. You hook up the stuff and it comes up and runs. So
yeah, the Acorn is their standard now, it looks like.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's a nice feature.
Well, I just wonder, because everybody, well, I say everybody, like I said, the Onefinity and PWN, and of course the alt mill, they have their own, they call it super long board or something like that. So they haven't jumped on the Masso ship yet, but it seems like that seems to be the big thing, at least with the Onefinity folks. But anyway, I was just like I said, I feel a little better after taking those polls, because I kept thinking, man, I'm probably just one of the few dinosaurs left still running Mach 3. And my stuff, I think it says somewhere on there, I think I bought it in like 2007. So it was a little while ago, but I love it. It still works. Like I said, I've used UC CNC software before. I've got it I don't think it's on this computer. It might be on that one. I don't know. But of course, you have to have one of their either a UC 100, 300, 400, or something. You have to have one of those for their software to work because they create the license file based on whatever serial number of your motion controller is. So, and I was telling the guys, Bob, I've had 4 of those motion controllers. That one right there actually is the one Melinda had on that Xylotex.
Yeah.
But I had 4 of them at one time, but I've slowly let people borrow them to get going. And I'll say, well, let me know when you buy one and I'll come back and get mine. And of course, that's the end of that. So I currently don't have one that has I think my buddy Jim has got the one that works with the software. But if I try to, even if I plug that motion controller up and put the license file in there in that software, it wouldn't work. It would still be demo because it doesn't match that serial number. So,
Right.
And I'd like to try to use that software again. If I called them, maybe they'd change my license file to that one. But if not, I'm not going to buy all that stuff over again.
Yeah.
Because they sell it, it's kind of, and I gripe about this every time I talk about UC CNC, but when you go on their website and go to buy the software, it's like $60 for their software. And unless they've changed it, they don't really make it clear, because you buy $60, buy the software, and then go to use it. And it's like, it only runs in demo mode. It doesn't do much of nothing until you get a license file, and you can't get a license file until you buy one of those, because they put this serial number in the license file. And I'm like, why don't you just bundle it together and say, here's the software, but you got to have one. But anyway. But,
Dave, I'll let you know that the current 4x4 Avid CNC price range is from $8,429 to $23,843.15.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I think Melinda said she had started, pricing. How you kind of build it like you do a car. You say, okay, I want this and I want this, and and I think she quit when she got up around $15,000, and
they're proud of that thing.
But like I said, that's why.
It's a good machine, though. I mean,
oh yeah, it's very, very, very nice machine.
Oh, it's a Cadillac as far as I'm concerned. But I hated to sell it, but I thought, you know what? If Ryan calls it a $10,000 assembly table one more time, so I just decided to move it out of here. And of course, this doesn't take up near as much space as the Avid, and this is kind of what got it all started for me when I started doing CNCs. This is not the first one I built, but it's the first one that I built where the light bulb kind of come on. I'm like, oh yeah, this one really works good. This could be the product I sell instead of the product I wanted to make using one of them. Because that's why I started building the CNC anyway. I wanted to make stuff to sell, but I wanted to do it with a CNC. And of course, way back then, there wasn't much out there. Not in my price range anyway. So,
well, you could always get the Avid 2x2 machine.
They have a 2x2?
A 2x2 benchtop machine.
Oh, yeah. How much are those? About $8,000?
Starts at $6,831 and goes up to $21,000
for a 2x2. Holy,
for 2x2.
Well, when you think about it, the part that's valuable is it's not
everything except for the
aluminum.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I wanted to stretch my Revolution out to like 53 inches so I can make propellers for a hang gliding idea I have. So
Nice.
yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, so I might have to make my own special one, I guess.
Just
Yeah.
have to supersize it.
Well,
Yeah.
what did the Revolution do? It was close to 3 feet, wasn't it?
It was 24 inches, and then I did the 642 because I wanted people to be able to do the tall tables. So it was 42 inches. So I only have to do another 10 inches, and I'd be able to make my props. But
Okay.
I have no idea how to make a propeller. But that's part of the fun, right?
Oh, heck
As long
yeah.
as if you don't die, yeah, it's,
Yeah, as long as you survive the crash. I mean,
yeah.
it's a process.
There you go. You get
Yeah.
friends to try it out for you.
Yeah.
I have a T-shirt that says my final words will be, "Well, that didn't go so well."
There you go.
Yeah.
It's just like learning how to fly. If you can survive the landings, eventually you'll get it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you're not doing anything anyway, Bob. You might as well go ahead and make you one at your shop at home.
Well, my problem is right now is, since we, sold our building and we closed, I brought all of the excess stuff back here. So I was telling you before, I have the KL8 sitting there, but it's got boxes of stuff on it. So I got to figure what to do with that stuff. But yeah, I brought a few toys home so I could still play. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's the downside to having a big CNC is they
Yeah.
fill up with stuff.
yeah. Yeah, mine is full of stuff, but I did bring one of the lasers home too, so that was kind of nice.
Nice.
So
Oh, okay. Cool.
So
Good deal.
Yeah, those
All right.
were, you said, I think you told me once they were like 150 watt laser. Is that what that was?
yeah, in about 3x5, I think is what their cutting area is. But they have, they have
Nice.
open ends so that you can do more if you need to.
That's awesome. That would be awesome to have.
All right. Well, let me before we get out of here, let me ask. We got a handful out there in the chat. Let me ask y'all that are watching. Out of the control software that you use, whether it be Mach 3 or Linux or whatever, what is your favorite thing about that software? I'm sure somebody's going to say, "Well, it's free," because some of the stuff on the list is free. But
That's what I'd be
put in
thinking.
the- put
Mine
in the
came
comments what-
came with a CNC.
Yeah. Now yours, Paul, yours is what do you use to run yours? Is it the open builds?
It's a Buildtronics controller, and it's inside the controller. The best I can tell is it's got a Raspberry Pi and a power supply.
Okay, but I mean, is it Gerbil based or is it something else?
Yeah, it's Gerbil plate
Oh,
based.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So you could use probably any G code sender with it if you wanted to, but they have one that they have marked as Onefinity. That's their own little knockoff of open builds or something.
yeah.
like that.
It's supplied by Buildtronics.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, Paul,
think
you
I-
should ask Dave if you could borrow his Masso controller for a while until you got set up. It seems to work
And
out
see-
good for people there.
Yeah, see if I like it, and I'll give it back to him after I buy one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Well, that one, like I said, that one's one of the old ones. So they have made a ton of improvements and stuff. Because, like I said, through all the research I did today, watching Masso G3 Touch videos, that looks pretty slick. I'd really like to have one, but I sure as heck don't need to be spending $1,400 or $1,500 for one just to play.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
all I do. But yeah, it's a nice. Well, I think, and it's just me talking here, and I'm not trying to knock Onefinity or anything, but their price point slowly creeping on up there. They used to be what
It
I
is.
thought was a pretty inexpensive way to get into CNC, but I don't know the way they've got it now, because I want to say they're knocking on that $5,000 door. I think for a unit now, and plus
Yeah.
I saw, and this isn't my comment, it's somebody I read. Like I said, I lurk around in the Onefinity group. They haven't caught me and kicked me out yet. So, as long as I don't comment, I guess I'm all right. But I see the other comments, and I noticed one person in there was kind of griping because it seems like they just nickel and dime you to death. You get this and you think you're getting a good deal, but then it's like, oh yeah, but when you add this and next thing you know, you're spending $5,000 or $6,000. So,
Yeah, that's right.
and of
Yeah.
course, like we talked about with the Masso G3 Touch, that's got to put $1,000 or more into it right there.
That
Well,
doesn't
it's
come with the base
1,800
package.
to upgrade mine, and that's just, I'm not willing to spend that kind of money because I don't use mine other than just a plain old hobby machine to, you know, for my own enjoyment, and I don't need anything that technical.
Yeah, but the guys that are actually doing production, they don't really want you. You don't need all the fancy bells and whistles either. You want to be able to go start and
Yeah.
and come back later and get parts. Start. That's it. You don't.
Yep.
The Mach 3 has all of the macros that you can write. You can customize the screen. It has everything that you would. And I think Linux CNC is the same, although it's not near as easy to do. But when we ran production at Bob CNC, it's a matter of just pushing the play button. Run the file, change the plywood, run the file.
Yeah.
You didn't. Touchscreen's nice, but I don't know. That's just me personally because I'm too cheap, I guess.
Well, I am too.
So Bob, another big thing in hobby CNC these days is tool changers.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the tool changers? There's
Well,
a couple different versions of people putting out.
For me, you have the people that want to turn on and off the spindle, and I can kind of get that because when it's done, you want the spindle to go off and you don't have to be there. But for me, you don't really want that unless you have a tool changer. And again, you don't really need a tool changer, right? Unless you're wanting to hit start and walk away. So it's really, to me, a tool changer is cool, right? You got to have that. But a probe is cool. I can set my XYZ and look at the machine go. I just found it just as easy to do a business card. But, I'm old school or lazy maybe. The probe seemed like more effort than it was worth. But a tool changer, I think we had one, when we were, like I said, working on that aluminum router, right? Had also metal vices and had it clamped down and had it all worked out. But yeah, it was cool because if you needed the thread mill, right, have a mill that actually cuts threads, right, so you can get to the bottom and then turn around and drill a hole. A tool changer was fantastic. But as a hobby machine, if you're doing a 3D relief carving, how many bits are you using? 3, maybe?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and they're long runs, right? They're long runs in between. So I don't know.
yeah. I'm like you, Bob, when it comes to the tool changer thing. I think it's silly for these hobby
it's cool
machines because I can change a tool and probably I haven't timed myself, but even as old and slow as I am, I bet I can change one easily under 60 seconds. And I've watched some of these tool changers and they're not moving that fast.
No, it's not fast, but
when you watch them on a YouTube video, they've got it sped up to make it look like it's fast. But I'm thinking it's probably got to go slow to get right over it and do. I just don't think it'd be that much faster. I just think it's kind of like, well, look at my machine. I got a tool changer.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those kind of bragging
I think
rights
it
thing.
can be. Yeah, you have those people that say my machine holds 4 microns, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. I can tell you why, but it doesn't matter. If you believe that, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's some of that, right, where you could just have it in your machine. But there's a place for it. I mean, well, like John Deere for one. I mean, you're running 15 or different tools, and so you bring in that great big bit to hog off everything, and then you bring back the other parts. But like, so if you're doing like a thread milling, or you need to hog off some parts and then do some fine, then that makes a lot of sense. But for a hobby, again, I mean, I don't think I've ever run a job that's required more than 2 or 3 bit changes. And maybe I'm not that artist, so maybe people do. But from what I understand is, you have that hog that you're going to hog everything off with, and then, if you have a really nice heavy duty machine, like let's say the Avid, you can do pretty good with a 1/2 inch bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then but that still takes a while. And then you come back with the small bit to do your final details. So I don't know. I just, they're cool. That's what I would say.
They're fun, but not necessary.
Yeah. Well, if you have Acorn, which is why we, got that so you could program it, it's a pain. You're going to spend, several hours getting them to, pick up the right tool, be at the right bay and everything. And then you've got to make sure you organize your tools right. And then, you still got to touch off, or you have to, put the offsets in the software. So it's not like, it's going to, I don't know. I guess if you were making 400 of something and, you had a lights out operation, maybe it would be worthwhile. But how many people have them? I mean, that would be a good poll. How many people have a
I
tool
think
changer?
a couple of people have come out with them over the last year or two, and so I think they're becoming more popular, or people think that they need them, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
they're a lot less expensive now with the Chinese models, coming out. So
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the comments. John Thompson says it was easy to set up, use my Gatton first attempt to CNC. I think he's probably talking about Mach 3 there. I don't know. Wade says the 2010 screen set lets you zero from the spoil board, but you can draw from the top of the material. It allows
so
easy
changes. Yep.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the 2010 screen set. I use basically the same old default screen set, except it has that one little feature that Peter Pasuelo from CNC Nuts added, and that's that little green flashing thing. So when you're testing, when you go to probe, you touch it just to make sure you look over and see that light to know that it's working before you hit Auto Tool 0. And I think that's called the 1024 Imperial. I think he has it on his website. But that's other than that, it's everything is default from probably 2007 or whatever. Yeah. Let's see. Landis says use of Mach 3 to write micro. I think he means macros. Change screens to fit his needs. Yeah, a lot of people like to write their own screens and stuff. And one reason why I've always stuck with basically the default screen is because it's not for me, but it's more because when people say, hey, I'm having trouble getting it to do this, I want to be on the same page they're on. And most people, if they don't know what they're doing, they're probably going to have the default setting. And so I can do a video call with them or whatever and pull that up, and they're used to seeing the same thing I'm looking at. So that's why I've always kept mine on the default stuff. Wade says CNC for newbies has a nice new rack and pinion machine called the Upshot Mill. Alrighty. I don't think I've seen that one yet. Sam Gray says, I will second the 2010 screenshot for Mach 3. I guess I'm going to have to check that one out. Where can you get that one? Is it available on the, what is it called? Newfangled Solutions, I think is what the Mach 3 people call that thing. I'll have to look and see. It's nice to hear. See, all right. Let's see. Here he says, for cost, how does a tool changer stack up against two spindles? I don't know, and I I kind of get the two spindle thing, but you have to have a good use case for it.
Yeah.
It seems like unless you got a product that you just really really need that two spindle setup, I just think it's probably more headache than what it's worth.
Well, I started modifying my Gatton for a second spindle on the back of the gantry, but it was mainly just so that I could do a full 5 foot long piece of plywood instead. But I gave up on it.
Well, I would think that would be better than the tool changer, just for the simple. I mean, a tool changer takes a little bit of understanding of how things work to get set up. Whereas it's intuitive to see that, hey, I got a spindle here. I need to offset your tape measure about that far, right? That seems like it would be easier to set up if you just use two spindles, and if you just needed two bits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot simpler in the setup anyway, I would think.
Yeah, Kenneth's commenting on my limit switches. And by the way, Kenneth, you probably can't tell because you probably can't see it good enough the way I got it parked over there. But I have replaced the two proximity sensors I had on there on my Z and X with the good old cheapo limit switches. I just started having trouble where they would work most of the time, but then once in a while they wouldn't. And I'm like, dadgummit, I want it to work every time. So I switched them out, and that's what I spent today doing is, of course, once I switch them, then I have to come up with new kind of brackets and something to make the roller trip. And all, so I've been 3D printing different things and coming out here and getting stuff to work. But I think I've finally got it now where it's homing every time now. But I don't know what to do. Of course, they were cheap. What did I say I paid for those things? $14.99 for 4 of them.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're super high quality. Wade says, my one machine, I do have a manual tool change on an automatic tool change spindle. Fast, yeah.
So that's just a unclip, throw it in there, clip it, and go. Kind of like muscle check, I would think.
Yeah, you have to call the right tool. See, that's what one thing I always say about the automatic tool changes is you'll probably make the same kind of mistakes you made before. It's just now you'll make them automatically.
There you go. Well, even in the industry, when I worked, at John Deere, I mean, there was a lot of proving out the program before you went in production. But for production, yeah, I mean, you'd have to have one, right? So,
well, years ago, back when I was a young buck, I used to program fabrication equipment, and we had different turret presses, if you know what a turret press is. And sometimes you'd have these big old round strippets, or I can't think of the other brands, but there's several of them out there. But you have to know what tool is in that spot, because if you call out that spot and it doesn't have the right tool, you just mess up a whole sheet of parts, And you had to bust the operator
the head off the machine, yeah.
You had to give the operator the list and say, here's what you got to put in there. You not only have to have the right tool, but you also had to have the right clearance based on the thickness of the material. So, yeah, Kenneth, yeah, decades. Dang, you really making me old, buddy.
Well, nobody used to have home switches or limit switches on their machines, right?
No, I mean, back when I started, I thought, that's just kind of a luxury,
Yeah, don't need them
because you could, if you really wanted to, homing switches make it nice. Like I've got basically using 3 switches. So I home it to the back right, and then I have soft limits set up. So anywhere else it goes, it's going to stop before it crashes into the side because of the soft limits. But even if you don't have homing switches, at least with Mach 3, you could drive the machine to the back corner or front corner, wherever you wanted to call home. And when you don't have limit switches, when you hit reference all home, it just zeros everything. So you could do that and still set up your soft limits. It's just you'd have to take that step, of driving it there and zeroing it and all that. But
Yep.
you could do that even without any switches at all. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would always recommend, because the switches aren't that hard. It's two wires really. And the way I've got mine set up, they're all daisy chained where they're all on one pin. So they're all on the same pin. So it's not like it's taking up a bunch of different pins on the breakout board and stuff. So,
all right. So in reference to the, I've been doing lots of research as I've been designing my machine, and of course I've spent lots of time looking at Bob's stuff. So Bob, with the proximity sensors that you picked, they are different than the ones that Dave had on his that was playing with recently, because yours were the magnetic ones. So
Right.
What's the difference between those magnetic ones and like a regular proximity switch? Is there really?
Well, it's just different technology. Some of them are basically if they're coming close to metal, right?
Yeah,
And
that's like what Dave was having.
Yeah, and those are good. I mean, I think it's a Hall effect, but actually, I think they're both Hall effect. But the magnetic, for a wood machine, you don't have metal, and you could stick a bolt there, but the magnet's nice in the sense. And those were, I mean, they'll work for anywhere from like 3 volts to 24 volts. So they were just, they were inexpensive, and it just worked.
Huh.
And out of all of the years, I think we've only had like one defective one. So I mean, they're pretty robust, especially with the 5-volt system. You're not going to pull enough current to bust them. So,
yeah. Well, I found with mine, like I said, they'd work most of the time, but then at one time they wouldn't, and it's almost like it was going too fast for it to, you know what I'm saying? It would read it most of the time, but sometimes it was a little too slow, and by the time it read it, it was already way up into where.
So yours could go past the metal then.
Yeah, they go
okay, yeah. See, we always put it in direct, so it was either going to stop or it was going to hit. Even when I use the metal sensing ones, I always put the bolt at the end, so it's traveling, right up against it. So even if it's going fast.
Yeah.
So if it's going past it, I could see where if you'd have to slow down your homing speed, maybe.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I kept slowing it down, and I'm like, well, shoot, I'm just going to go back to the mechanical kind, because I don't want it to take 3 minutes to home.
Yeah,
when the machine's all the way up here. So
especially if you have a 4x8,
yeah. And so after I got the mechanical ones added, and I already had mechanical one in the back, then I could go, okay, well now I can speed it up, and I kept speeding it up until I felt like it was a good speed. So now it doesn't take all day for it to home, but yeah, like I said, they worked probably 80% of the time, but I want them to work every time. I don't, 80% ain't good enough. So I finally just took them off.
So this is not the kind that we used for our KL7, but this kind, if I can figure out where my camera is for just metal, and those have been really durable for our testing, right? So I mean, the our lasers used them that we bought, but those are kind of nice. They're not too expensive, but they will. If you're doing a metal one, I don't know. Are you doing a metal one? Then those would be kind of
the ones that The ones that Dave had were blue, not green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe a different voltage, but it was the same one.
It looked like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, these
Okay.
work off of well, I forget. It was 3 to 24 volts or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
5 to 30 volts is what they
Yeah,
work
these
on.
are
And
fine.
when I checked the voltage, I was getting right at 10 volts. So
Well,
it
that
was
should
like,
be enough. These are the SN04-N.
yeah, that's
SN04-N.
these are just a different color, but these are the SN04-N.
Okay. Huh. I've had really good luck with them.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a bigger mass for your metal. What were they going past? A
Well,
bolt head?
one of them I had a 3D printed where the Z was. I had a 3D printed thing, and then I had a threaded hole where I had a bolt screwed in there, so it would read the head of that bolt. So maybe it
Okay.
wasn't big enough or something. I don't know.
Maybe not enough mass, yeah. Because, yeah, we always ran them straight into it, though, so not over the top. But
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got the mechanical ones on there now. So
yeah, those work too.
Frankie says 80% of the time it works every time.
Yep, there you go.
yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But all right. Well, I guess we've been on there about an hour and a half. I guess we'll get ready to sign off here, and I guess in the near future, be looking for me to build something with some of this stuff I got. I don't know what. I do know I'm going to use, like I said, I picked up the other Sidewinder that Melinda had, and I thought, well, I'll kind of keep this one the way it is, and that way I have one to play with and run stuff on. But now that I have a second one, I can just go wild with it. So I may
Put those NEMA 34s on it.
I may pimp that one out a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
I still like the 3018 idea. With the NEMA 34, the motors would be bigger than the machine.
I guarantee you that one big NEMA 34 I had, it probably weighs more than that whole machine.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Because it was heavy. So, all right. Any parting words, Ryan?
Nope.
We probably need to talk about your Saturday night gig. We haven't talked about that tonight.
Oh yeah, well that's okay. Yeah, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out with us. We're talking about the latest in CNCs, lasers, and 3D printing, and videos and all that good stuff. And we'll have some more Ranger CNC updates and all that good stuff there too. Hopefully, good times.
That's what I tune in for. I want to see the Ranger CNC updates.
Yeah, we're getting closer.
I've been waiting a long time to see the Ranger CNC. All I see is version 7.2 of the control box.
You got to start somewhere, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just have a feeling, and maybe I'm a little biased. I don't know. I just have a feeling it's going to be awesome.
Well, both of my favorite plywood manufacturers of CNCs don't make their kits anymore, so somebody's going to have to do it.
Yeah, somebody needs to fill the void.
Well, hey, if you need some parts, you let me know, okay? I can get you hooked up. What are you looking for?
We're going to be talking.
All righty, Paul, you got any parting words? Or
I have no parting words. Everybody have a good evening, and nice to see you again, Bob.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys. Sure.
All righty, Bob, you got anything you want to tell everybody about?
No, I mean, I guess everybody probably knows I'm retired. If not, by the way, I'm retired. So, but yeah, it was good connecting with you guys again, you know.
Yeah. Well, don't be a stranger. You know, I tell folks all the time, anybody's welcome to come on anytime. It's, you know, we always make room. We got plenty, you know, we got 4 of us on here now, but we can make more room if we need it. So anybody's welcome. If there's anybody out there in the chat that wants to come on some night and talk about their CNC, or I'd love to have somebody on to that runs one of those Masso G3 touches.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Just saying, I'd like
Or
to.
somebody that can tell me the advantage of having a stepper motor that's closed loop versus a servo motor. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Dave, if you want to sponsor me, I'll be more than happy to upgrade mine and give you a feedback on how
There
well
you
it works.
go. There you go. He's
Will.
got an older one you can borrow for a while until you get
Oh,
the new one.
Yeah. Well, I had really, I got kind of excited when I found that thing, and I thought, well, let me go plug it in and make sure it still works. And then it worked, and I thought, well, this will be great because I'll take all these parts I've got and I'll build because you still got to have drivers and power supplies and all that kind of stuff. It's basically, it's not, you don't have to have a computer, but it's inputs, outputs, and, stuff like that. It's not drivers and that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, I could build a box and put that thing right inside the box, but I have become so attached to a touchscreen monitor now. That's what I want.
Wow. Okay.
And it didn't work with that. So then I'd have to figure out some way of putting a keyboard in it or something. So still might, I might look around because I know a lot of times I run, I go to look for something and I'll find something that I didn't even know somebody made, and I'm like, yeah, that would probably work. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, would love to have somebody come on that wants to talk about that and show it up close and personal. So. All right. Well, I guess we're going to get out of here then. If I can find the right button. That's it right there, I think. I hope that's the right button. Because I'm going to hit it. I don't know if that's the right button or not. So anyway, good night, everybody, and we will see y'all next week.
See you.